Good
Hi.
morning, everybody. Sorry we're getting a late start. Thank you for joining us. For those of you who do not know me, I am Kim Freza. I'm the Director of Business Development here at Alliant. And we're so happy to have Frank with us today from GetQuorum. Alliant's been partnering with GetQuorum for, I think, over a year now, probably longer.
Yeah.
We do already have several associations successfully using their service. And we have several others that have asked for more information and would like to learn more about electronic voting in general. So today, Frank is here to show us the benefits of electronic voting and walk us through their platform's streamlined and easy to use process. I did want to let everyone know that we are recording this webinar. A few of you had asked. I know there were several board members that weren't able to attend. So as soon as we get the link ready, we will be sending it out for everyone. That's it. Welcome, Frank. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Kim, and thank you everyone for your patience with us this morning. My name is Frank Valdez. I've got a presentation I'll be sharing here. I just want to start off by thanking Alliant for the opportunity to connect with everyone today. Thanking the board members. In my past board member capacity, I've also attended a ton of these events by computer, in person. So can't thank you enough for educating yourselves as board members, as owners of your own communities. I've got a presentation I'm going to share here. We'll dive into some electronic voting topics, a very, very hot topic here in the state, especially for our condos with some of the new House bill updates. So all in all, we'll kind of make it an overview. Won't go too deep into some of the nuances, but remember that you always have a subject matter expert over there, not only at Align, but with us here standing by their side. So if you have any burning questions, comments, concerns that we cannot get to in today's webinar, please feel free to reach out directly through your management and over to us. We can always hop on an individual Zoom meeting if you feel like that's consistent and important for your needs. So not to worry, but again, we'll dive into a presentation here. We'll walk through some electronic voting measures as it pertains to the state of Florida and HOAs and condos. All right. Perfect. And remember, we do have that Q&A feature. So please put all of your questions in there. Again, we'll try our best to get to all of them. If not, I promise to, at the very least, after this, answer all of them, even if it has to be by way of an email. All right. Quick background about myself here, about my journey to get here to you today. I'm the regional director in the state of Florida for GetQuorum, but have spent 4 years here in this role, in this capacity. State certified with the DVPR to teach electronic voting courses and virtual meetings. CAI national member, very proud of CAI partnerships that we've established. I've served on my own board, as I mentioned earlier, a 415 unit association in the West Fort Lauderdale area. I've now since come off the board and I'm a professional unpaid consultant. So I get a call from usually from the current president about every week or so we speak, but I'm happy to help. Chaired on several committees, both ACC and Violations Committee. And prior to this role, worked in the property management industry. So a little QR code will let you scan for my contact information should you need it. A little bit about GetQuorum and the company that I work for, the electronic voting provider, partnered up here with Alliant. GetQuorum has been around since 2016. We're almost 10 years here into providing electronic voting, specifically in the state of Florida. We provide a fully managed, full service approach to electronic voting, ballots, e-proxies, electronic meeting notices. We'll get into that in a little bit. Hosted virtual Zoom webinar meetings like the one we're in today. And surveys. We'll spend a little bit of time talking about surveys today because that is part of our core basic offering. And I know that they can be leveraged in so many ways these days in our communities. But all in all, when you think of GetQuorum, think of a electronic voting provider service that's here to help the communities achieve quorum, pass bylaws, right? Reduce your overall costs and help you run successful meetings. North of 3,000 associations we're currently assisting, north of 30 employees dedicated to assisting your community. All right, so I put this slide up almost kind of in a comical fashion because I know from the property manager's perspective, and again, I've been in that world there's a lot going on. There's a lot coming in and out, and certainly the notices and the ballots and proxies when that time of the year comes is it's a lot. It can be very challenging. And from an owner's perspective, I always try to put that hat on and ensure that I usually didn't check my mailbox very often, and when I did, certainly I may have not been that prudent to open up ballots or proxies and return them. And so we've got good news. Electronic voting's here, right? In terms of GetQuorum and what we are providing the communities, again, partnered up with Lion, it's improved efficiency. So here's when you think electronic voting, think of improved efficiency. We're going to make sure that processes are easier. There's an automatic login that I'll walk you through, and just to kind of give you a bird's eye view as to how it works. Engagement. So believe it or not, there's a massive increase in engagement in these communities to the tune of 70% year one, 80% year two. That includes our 55 and better communities. So what we've seen out there across 3,000 associations is that usually the first year, 70% of the owners opt into electronic voting. Why is that important? Let's get to the bells and whistles here. And that's because, especially for our treasurers, our board members today on the call today, there's a direct decrease in cost for some of these notices, right? So it certainly helps on streamlining things, making things more efficient, and believe it or not, usually pays for itself in terms of electronic voting. From a support standpoint, we're always providing account management team that is really joined at the hip with management and with a collaboration of us, management, and generally association council. We're going to make sure that we hit the ball out of the park and that we're able to assist your community. From a security standpoint, and I know that's always a hot topic, we are partnered up with Amazon Web Services, AWS. We're going to make sure that the meeting data is secure, that we're following all the statutory requirements, and that there are auditable reports. So believe it or not, there's a lot more security and tracking in electronic voting. I think the one big takeaway I have for sure from that specific item is the fact that an electronic receipt is transmitted to any and all owners that vote electronically. So you will walk away if you cast an electronic vote with a receipt. It is itemized in nature, and that just kind of reassures that you understand that your vote counted in the platform. All right. So here's what's always kind of a core of our service. So if you're using GetQuorum, all of these services are being hopefully leveraged and used in your community. Electronic notices, right? That goes from the very first notice and getting owners to consent or opt into electronic voting. Budget notices can be sent out electronically, annual meeting notices, and special meeting notices. Surveys, that's a big one. I promise I spent a little bit of time today, so we've got some things to cover even in the presentation of the actual services. Surveys, unlimited, right? So any association that has and is leveraging the GetQuorum platform will have the opportunity to send out unlimited surveys. Now, keep in mind, folks, for those of you on the call today, if you've got owners that perhaps do not opt in or consent to electronic voting and still want to vote by paper, and that's okay. That's about our 20% of the owners as of now. Those owners that don't opt in can still participate in surveys. So in layman's terms, 100% of your owners can participate in a survey in your community. That is a non-binding vote. So we can't emphasize enough the fact that you should leverage the survey environment out there. That is certainly provided, again, unlimited in use. And those can be straw polls for anything. I know there's sometimes playground refurbishments. Gosh, we've done from pickleball courts or from tennis courts to pickleball courts, right? You usually want to leverage that before going out for an official membership vote in the community to just really get the pulse of where the owners are at. Electronic voting. Now, these are your official binding votes for the community. Those are also unlimited, throughout the service of GetQuorum in your community. So whether they're electronic ballots for your annual meetings, those secret ballots, or whether they're any sort of limited proxies for amendments, I can tell you that we've had communities leverage this technology throughout the year. In a perfect world, you're sending out a few surveys, you're having us handle your annual meeting. And in addition to that, we're also helping your community with some proxies or limited proxies out there for things like material alteration votes, amendments. I've seen developer language that was still in the documents of a community back from the 1970s, and we've just helped them finally update their governing docs. So really think of any membership-based vote and the fact that you can leverage this technology throughout the year. It's not just kind of a one-trick pony. There's an electronic registration desk that I'll walk through. I think that's something that you really appreciate. And again, this comes by way of a massive collaboration from our team and your management team as well. So it's really collaboration between GetQuorum, your current management team, to make sure that all this is being executed at a high level. We've got a lot of practice. That's the good news. We've got a ton of practice. We certainly have been partnering up, to Kim's point, for a number of years now with Align. And again, can't thank you enough for that relationship. So, all right. Yes, we can email a PDF of the presentation. We're happy to provide a link to this presentation. I see the questions already coming in, so not to worry. All right, so we're going to try to cover, again, a little bit of an overview as to the experience of electronic voting. That's the takeaway I want everyone to have here is, what does it look like? What does it feel like if you're an owner, right, in your community and you're actually going to use this technology? Of course, for my board members in the call, I'm going to make sure that you walk away with understanding all of the reporting capabilities and how it can assist you. But again, we're going to make sure that you have a direct view as to how all of this works. So let me walk you through the electronic consent collection. This is where the journey begins. We are following state statutes when it comes to electronic voting, whether you are condos on the call today or 718s, or whether you are HOAs or 720s, or even our co-ops, 719s. There are statutory requirements that require us as an electronic voting provider to begin the journey with collecting owner consents. So what does that mean? An owner in the state of Florida must consent or opt in to electronic voting in order to be able to vote electronically in your community. If an owner does not opt in to electronic voting or stays opted out, they'll continue to receive paper notices, and the only option of casting a vote will either be in person at the meetings or by paper. Good news, we've got some technology here, a process we're going to show you. And again, on average, more than 70% of the owners opt in. So watch how easy we've made this process. I want to show you what owners are going to experience when they begin the journey of electronic voting. And I also want to emphasize the fact that what you're going to see here does not require an owner to download any software, does not require an owner to download an application on their phone or create a cumbersome login and password, which they usually will forget in the future. What we've done instead is just streamline the process, completely efficient, and I'll show you exactly what it looks like here. So from a user perspective, you've got an email that is going out to an owner from GetQuorum, notices at getquorum.com, and that email is going to give the owner the opportunity in their inbox. So they'll log into their own email inbox based on the roster that we received from your management team. And so as we receive that roster, as we receive that information, we're going to send out a consent form to each owner that's got an email address on file. That's going to give the owner an opportunity to read through this, let them know electronic voting is available, that we're asking them to consent or opt into electronic voting in the community. And that link that you just saw in that email is unique to that owner. So each owner has their own unique link. New tab is opened up. This works on iPhones, Androids, tablets, laptops, you name it. Excuse me. And I'll walk you through what you're going to see here because it's very important. I know it's on the smaller side, the writing. What you're seeing here is a Florida compliant consent form. We drive the owner right into a Florida compliant consent form. We provide all of the ownership details based on that roster integration that we've got on the back end. And we already pre-populate that information. All we do is ask the owner to sign their electronic signature right there, and we will date this for them. So once they click on the submit button, an owner has now opted into electronic voting. So think about how easy that was. Email in the inbox, link. It was almost like a survey, right? Like your Survey Monkeys of the world, where it was link in the inbox, click on the link, and you're taken to the actionable item right away. That was intentional on our end. Think some of the additional features you saw there was an electronic signature is going to be required, right, in order for that consent form to be valid. Easy, the owner's done. They get a copy of this consent form. We keep one on file. They don't have to repeat this step. Again, they stay opted in perpetuity. So that's the good news there. Our platform will reflect which owners have opted in. Our platform will reflect which owners have stayed opted out. And of course, reminder emails will go out to owners to let them know if they've not opted in yet. We can send what we call some nudges out there for them. So that was the first step. Believe it or not, that's as easy as it gets to opt in to electronic voting. Very simple platform there. And then what moves forward from there is a few things. Things like surveys can now be leveraged, right? We'll create for the community what we call kind of a landing page here. Here's a sample landing page, which usually is for management to access. And then in this administrative dashboard, we've got a few features in there. Those include surveys application that can be used, again, unlimited, registration desk as well, show you what that means. And again, any results will kind of live here. So in terms of the surveys, those can be leveraged right out of this platform. Super simple survey application right here will ask if the survey is going to be anonymous or not. So we'll onboard the community, usually within a business week. We'll send out those consents to the owners, and we'll let you know you're now in good shape to either send out surveys, send out an official notice for a membership-based vote, you name it. There's a whole host of opportunities that open up here in our world. So just to kind of take you back from an owner's perspective, I will show you kind of something like a first notice of an annual meeting. Super simple. So when we get ready to serve a first notice, that first notice is going to look something like this. It's simple, email in the inbox, streamlined. We're tracking the date, the time, the fact that that first notice has been sent out. And GetQuorum does provide an electronic affidavit of mailing. So just so you know that these aren't just emails we're sending out, it's actually being tracked in the back end of our system. We also track bounce back rates as well. So if something bounces back, we'll communicate with management and let them know that we have an email that has bounced back for the unit. And I see the chat bubbling up here, so that's really good. And it's the question is really easy, and Anita, good to be with you as well. James asks, what does electronic signature entail? Similar to, say, DocuSign? Absolutely, James. Thank you for that question. So an electronic signature in the state of Florida, by the way, as of today, is as good as a wet signature on a document. And so what GetQuorum is requesting from these owners going to the very beginning of the process is that the owners sign every single document with an electronic signature. And yes, just like DocuSign, it's going to tie in a typed signature, right, back to an email address to make sure that it's authenticated on the back end. And then it's going to record and keep that information on file. So let's say an owner forgets that they've opted into electronic voting and it's now been a week or a year later, we can go back to those historical records in the GetQuorum environment and platform and actually show, oh, yes, you did opt into electronic voting. You've been opted in since last year. Here's a copy of your consent form. So it's not just a, yes, we know you're opted in, but we actually have official records on file. And that's going to move forward to things like a ballot, right, or a limited proxy as well. And I'll show you what that looks like as well coming up here. So here's a sample ballot. I just want to show you how easy, again, the efficiencies for using an electronic voting platform is. So say you're out there in the middle of the ocean, right, or in the middle of the skies. I just recently flew back from Europe, and in the middle of the air, you've got internet, and you want to fill out some of these electronic documents. These days you can. And that comes, again, simple by way of an email in the inbox from an owner, letting the owner know it's time to cast a ballot. So I'll show you again, just very quickly here, easy email in the inbox for this owner. If we are hosting a Zoom meeting for your community, it may have that register now link. If not, then that's fine. We will only have that submit your ballot link for the community. So that link is unique to that owner. That link is unique to that email address on file, the ownership information. So it's got some what we call encryption on the back end. Opens up a new tab, automatically brings that owner to their automatic login, ask them to reconfirm ownership information here in this screen that you're seeing. and it's going to take them right into their voting documents. So easy, efficient, streamlined process here. And again, as you're going to see coming up here in these steps, here's a sample ballot, candidate resumes here, names just below as well. And again, the idea here is that you're seeing that it's pretty efficient, streamlined, and that we are making sure that these documents then stay on file. So as you saw here, once the maximum amount of selections have been reached, we gray out additional selections. We're going to make sure that there's no overvoting or undervoting for any specific use. If there's a bylaw, and I'll show you a separate sample because we've tackled a bunch of those bylaws, we can certainly fold it into a ballot or a separate document. And there's always two review screens in electronic voting, at least in our environment. The first review screen lets the owner still go back. Second review screen is an official ballot or proxy, as I'll show you in just a moment. And it gives the owner an opportunity to go back and review some of the responses. If they're happy with everything, we're going to ask for, again, a typed signature, electronically speaking here, whether it's on a phone, tablet, or a PC or laptop. They're going to provide that electronic signature. We're going to keep that as an official document here. So receipt for the owner, always part of the platform, and they can certainly go back to their email if they want to see a PDF of that information as well. So I'll pause. I'll see if we've got some questions, and we do. So thank you. Keep bringing them in. And we've got a few other things we're going to get through, but I'm going to pause here. We've got some questions coming in. I want to make sure that we tackle these for each section as we go into them. All right. So Mr. Larry, how do you know an email was received? Experiencing that emails sometimes are sent to a known email address but never received. All right, perfect. This is the way that we know emails are received. First and foremost, the system that we use actually shows delivery of an email. So it's almost like saying, like, we know it reached a mailbox, right? If you're speaking about it in a physical term, there is a way, electronically speaking, to know that it was received or sent to a sender. Now, in terms of a sender opening it or having it bounce back, those are certainly different steps there. But the platform that we use does give us access to understanding whether an email was delivered, we'll call it, right? Again, what's done with the email at that point is up to the owner. Whether they open it or not is up to that owner. I will tell you that we do track bounce backs. And so if there's a problem with the connection between our system and the email address at hand, we will know that immediately and we will communicate it with management for sure. We've got here a really interesting one, a condo with multiple email addresses or owners. They only get one vote, right? So that's a common one for us. I think we tackle that probably just about every week. If that condominium doesn't have voting certificates, for example, on file, our system does have a capability of sending multiple deeded owners an opportunity to opt into electronic voting and even an opportunity to, for example, to receive a ballot. However, the first vote in, that is the only one that would be counted for that unit. So just to kind of answer that question of what do you do when you have multiple owners and they all have access to voting for that unit, we will give them access to vote. However, only the first vote in for that unit will count. So we do have capabilities of doing that, not only in the condo world, but in the HOA world. That happens a lot, whether it's husband and wife or other things. I see also a follow-up to that question, which is we've got owners with 4 units, but they only have 1 email address. So they are entitled to 4 votes, but it would come by 4 separate links to the same email, right? And each link would be obviously attached to specific units. So they'd receive 4 ballots or 4 links to the same email. And absolutely, we've tackled that one a ton of times too. See questions rolling in. So thank you for that. Sally, is the advanced ballot in the second notice? Yes, it is inside of that second notice. It absolutely is. It's not a separate email to the second notice. And is it possible to go back to change your mind after your ballot? Ooh, that is the question of the week. I will tell you, I think I've addressed that question more this week than any other week. So thank you for that. So let's walk through whether we're allowed to go back and resubmit a vote after it's been cast. In the case of a secret ballot, right, whether you're an HOA or condo, if your governing docs do not allow for a revocation of a secret ballot, then that's going to be a simple no, right? You cannot go back. Think of it as your paper ballot. If you're not able to go back in the ballot box and grab your ballot, then it's a final vote once it's been cast. Remember, there's 2 review screens we walk through. There's an electronic signature we certainly ask for owners to provide. And so at that point, if they have casted and finalized the vote for something like an election and pursuant to, again, the meeting procedures and the governing docs, there is no revocation, then we're just going to follow suit. We're following suit on exactly what we're being asked to do. I will tell you, we're going to come up here on a sample of a special meeting, and that sample comes with a limited proxy, which are often used in special meetings for amendments and things of that nature. And the reverse is the case. So there is a revocation option in the environment of a limited proxy. In the environment of an amendment for a community, there is a revocation option in that world, right? But not for the secret ballots specifically. So let me walk you through that. Let's segue. That really helps us segue into something like a special meeting notice. And again, this is the second most common. So we tackle a ton of elections throughout the year, but I certainly feel like this is the second most common steps that we take with communities, which is helping them leverage electronic voting technology for a whole host of special meeting options. Gosh, we've done pool renovations in condominiums out there, and they call those kind of, material alteration votes. We've done, conversion of tennis courts to pickleball courts triggered a membership vote, so certainly helped with that. Updating governing docs from developer language. There's a lot of things that you can use these special meetings for. Things like bulk cable contracts, perhaps reserve funding, so many things out there in these communities. So I'll show you really quickly, just to take a step back here. A notice of a special meeting in a community would look very similar to this. So remember, this is just a sample, right? There might be some changes or nuances here for your specific use case. As an owner, you're receiving that email in the inbox. It's simple, it's streamlined. It lets the owner know you are being asked. This is your official notice for the special meeting. So first of all, they're being served the special notice. We're going to attach the meeting packet to this email, and they're going to be told the agenda items here, and they're going to be let known, hey, you've got a proxy to complete. Please click here. Again, that link is unique. It ties back to that consent process from that owner, automatically logs them in, opens up the platform here, reconfirms the ownership information with them, making sure we're all on the same page here, and takes them right into the voting. So again, super quick, within 2 clicks, that owner is already in the voting. So here's a sample of that. Reserve funding in a community, right? Partially or fully. Yes. Next steps. Take a look at this one, because this one, I feel like almost every community is going to have to come across this, whether you're a new community or an older community. You're certainly going to have to update some of those declarations or governing docs. I know some of the local attorneys that have sessions on just how to do this for a community. And here it is, bylaw amendment, right? GetQuorum would attach the additional supporting information for this bylaw right there. So you're going to have those supporting documents are going to be there. And then, of course, in this specific case, it's a yes, no, or abstain from voting. Good news here, that document is there. It's easy to see. Once an owner has casted a vote, watch this again. We're going to make sure, because this is a limited proxy, limited proxies by nature have either the secretary of the board or someone that is going to be appointed that limited proxy. Now, don't confuse this with your elections, because what we're doing is more so of an amendment change, right, in this limited proxy world. Answer review screen, first one, second one coming up here. Take a look at this. So here's your electronic signature line right down there, right? There's your review of the proxy responses you gave right there. Again, super simple, right in front of you. Once an electronic signature has been cast, you can submit. So here's a segue to that question that was asked earlier, which is, can you revoke a vote? In the environment or in the world of something like a limited proxy for an amendment? Absolutely. Here's the receipt download. But in addition to that, there's a start again button. You will not see that button when there is no revocation or on something like a secret ballot. However, in this environment that we're sampling this in, you're going to see that start again button for this amendment change. Why? Because usually those amendments, and here's a copy of the receipt, just so you have that, right? Those amendments can usually be revoked and you can resubmit an answer. I'll show you one last thing here as part of this overview, which is there's an email in the inbox receipt for the owner. There's a PDF receipt that the owner will receive based on the vote they cast. So you can keep your receipt with you and take a look at that. Just to go back to that question, which is that revocation, there it is for the limited proxy. You can revoke this proxy by clicking here. The deadline is this date and this time, and that's going to be consistent with the meeting, usually the meeting deadlines, or when the deadline was to provide the official vote. So if you're a few votes shy out there in your world of passing this amendment, you'll know ahead of time because electronic votes count towards quorum. So every electronic vote counts towards a quorum. And as we begin to see those votes ticking in, we certainly will have the opportunity to have an understanding as to whether you're trending towards that quorum or not. So hopefully that was helpful. I know, again, in each of these communities, there can be some different nuances, so we'll always help. Got a few questions here. I'm going to see if they're also dedicated to this. So here, go back. Indicate owners who do not respond are tracked. Would they be able to get a list so we can follow up with owners that don't respond so we can encourage them to opt in and vote electronically? Absolutely. So thank you for that question, Breno, which is will our platform reflect the owners that have not opted into electronic voting or electronic notices? And the answer is 100% absolutely. GetQuorum tracks and can provide you a list of all the owners that have never opted in. Here's some good news to alleviate the concern of tracking them down or following up with them. GetQuorum will follow up with those owners by way of a reminder email. So think of your like 2-minute surveys that you get after you check out of a hotel. Once they've got your email and they keep sending you the 2-minute survey, and at some point you're like, all right, I'm gonna fill this out. You're sending me a lot of reminder emails and it's taking me more than 2 minutes just to keep reading these. That's the kind of level of follow-up that GetQuorum will provide. We will provide free part of our service, follow-up emails, reminders to owners that have never taken action. So if an owner never took action in opting in, we set up a sequence automatically. You don't have to call them. We will send them an email. And again, it's very efficient. But absolutely, if you want to take it a step further and have a list and make some phone calls or speak to them at the next, local event there, absolutely. So I've got another question here. Thank you, Patricia. If revocation is not noted in your declarations, so I'm not sure what the question is there, but revocation has to be an option for a ballot. Is I think the kind of the basis of that was that when I was asked, can a ballot be revoked? Usually it's a no. In most cases, secret ballot is non-revocable. That should be in your community association documents as far as your meeting procedures. If it is in there that it's non-revocable, we're going to follow suit. If you have one out of our 3,000 associations, maybe in the state of Florida and HOA, that says that they had fully transparent and revocable ballots, then obviously, certainly we can implement those. I can tell you for our condos on the call today, that's usually a firm no. So here's another question from Luann. Would the email from GetQuorum show the management company's name or GetQuorum? So it's coming from notices at GetQuorum, but on the subject line, we make sure that it's very prominent front and center and that we let the owner know, hey, this email is on behalf of your board of directors. It's in, pertaining your community. So that sort of thing is what we do to mitigate any issues. I'll take it a step further. I think where that question is going is, hey, we want to make sure that the owners don't send the email to spam. We usually get ahead of that. We've got an onboarding template that we send management, and Alliance is going to do a great job at making sure that even before GetQuorum gets started at your property, that there's an email going out to all the owners letting them know GetQuorum has been hired. They're providing electronic voting to all the owners. You must opt in. Please make sure that you mark as a safe sender notices at GetQuorum. You're going to be receiving an email soon giving you an opportunity to opt in to electronic voting, right? So again, no different than if you guys were running something else in your community, you want to give them a heads up. So we start with that heads up, and then we follow up with an email although it's coming from Notice at GetQuorum, the subject line makes it very prominent that we're tied into the association there. All right. So Larry, will the platform give a list of owners who have already voted? Yes, absolutely. That is one of our requirements to provide auditable files, including a list of owners who have voted in the community electronically. That list should be in front of any sort of counting committee. Very important to have an understanding of who voted electronically, so that way it avoids double voting, right? So you have to have a list of electronic voters when it's time for the final counting to make sure that there are no paper votes for those units. So absolutely, it's one of our core services to provide a list of owners who have voted electronically. And thank you for that. Richard, is there a dedicated person GetQuorum to assist with technology or other issues that might arise in the voting process? There is. So believe it or not, we've got a massive support team on the back end here. That support team or account management team starts with kind of being tied at the hip with your association manager. Of course, beyond that, we have an email address, support@getquorum.com, and a 1-800 number that can assist any owner that faced any challenges or difficulties with the platform. So absolutely. As far as day-to-day, there is one specific dedicated account manager that assists your association management team. So it's the same person usually. From an owner's perspective, if you're calling our 800 number, you might get one or two different people depending on the day. Is the platform linked with Alliance current portal? Yes, it is. So that's a very good question. We do have an API integration as of late last year that provides us the latest and greatest roster of ownership information. So it's going to let us know if there's been an ownership change, a change in an email address. We have nightly roster updates with that platform. In terms of if it tells us whether an owner has an outstanding balance and they're ineligible to vote, that's an organic process that we usually walk through with management to make sure that they have access in their platform to make any owners ineligible to vote if they in fact do have outstanding balances and are ineligible. So that's a feature that's accessible to management in their administrative platform, and they will have the opportunity to do that should they wish to do that. I see a thank you. You're welcome. Is there an option to see the site in Spanish or another language? So the site, from my understanding right now, you'd have to use kind of the Google converter, language converter. And then in terms of notices, if you're going to spit out a notice in more than one language, usually check in with association counsel, right? Because we want to make sure it's correct. If an owner does not opt in, can they vote by paper ballot or paper proxy? Thank you, Susan, for that question. And the answer is 100% absolutely yes. If an owner does not opt into electronic voting, they can opt to show up at the meeting and vote by paper, or if there's a mail-in option for that specific community, absolutely, that can be done as well. All right, so thank you for those. Those are great questions. Keep them coming. I'm going to show you one or two more features I want to make sure that you're aware of from this platform. One of those include an easier way to check yourself in to future meetings. And I know from a manager's perspective, I'm sure that they are loving this feature and appreciate the fact that this is even available. So check it out. We've got what we call a GetQuorum registration desk. A registration desk is pretty simple. It's a feature that the local management will log into. However, it impacts the owner, I feel like, just as much as management. So historically speaking, you show up to the meeting if you did choose to go in person, and you've got a check-in desk, right? Whether it's manager, administration with a big Excel spreadsheet, or whether it's multiple administrators there, and the lines might be divided into alphabetical order just to keep the chaos under control. What we've devised here in our world, and again, this is included with all of our core services, what I'm reviewing here, is an electronic registration desk. So what happens is that management now has the ability to log in to their GetQuorum registration desk. And as an owner checks in person to the meeting, their information can be looked up, as you see here, by name, email address, or even a unit number if that's on file. So super simple search option once the ID has been checked. Once you click on that check-in button next to the owner, the entirety of that address will show up. So any and all owners that belong in that address are going to show up here. And I'll show you in just a moment. We're going to reflect that. So in this unit, for example, there's two owners, Mark and Angela. We are going to mark them both as here, for example, or just one in the meeting, depending on who shows up. And then we're going to take it a step further. If they provided a proxy saying they weren't going to show up to the meeting, they're not going to be able to vote on the amendment or whatever it may be, and they are now showing up to the meeting and want to revoke that proxy, it actually lets you know, electronically speaking, if they provided a proxy right there, so you can revoke and vote live. So this is not only a check-in desk for efficiencies in checking in owners more quickly into a meeting, but it's also an extension of the electronic voting platform. If an owner already submitted an electronic vote, it does reflect that upon the check-in process, just to let the manager know. Do not provide them an additional piece of paper unless there's a revocation option or unless they haven't voted at all, which will be reflected here. This will show you if they've never voted. So registration desks, I had a community, I think north of 1,000 doors that used only this feature their first year. They loved it. They could not get enough of it because of the efficiencies it provided. And so I'll show you again, bear with me here, one or two more things. Virtual board meetings is certainly one of our, so everything you saw up until this point right now is included kind of in our core. Virtual board meetings is something that is provided kind of in our heightened, almost a la carte service in Meetings Pro. And what that is it's a Zoom account inside of the administrative dashboard here, unlimited Zoom meetings, unlimited Zoom recordings, and you can even have multiple meetings going on at once because of the Zoom license we're providing. And so we call that virtual board meetings. Again, it's part of the Meetings Pro package offering we've got for the communities. And so if you're looking for a replacement or a package that includes not only surveys, not only electronic voting and electronic notices, but you'd also like to leverage some of the virtual meeting components, then that's where Meetings Pro comes in. We were asked by a manager in the west coast of Florida, I'll never forget it. It was around Bonita Springs in one of the expos. Hey, could you guys provide a platform to replace, kind of my Zoom, SurveyMonkey, and electronic voting and make it all in one place, put it all in one. That's what this additional feature allows, right? Not just electronic voting and surveys, but also Zoom as well. So you've got that in play here, and I'll show you what it does. Super simple. It allows for unlimited virtual board meetings to be opened, and these meetings can be for special meetings, but they're opened in our platform. It's basically Zoom license, unlimited in use, and unlimited recordings as well. And the recordings live in the GetQuorum environment. They stay there. We're backing everything up to the Amazon Web Services cloud. And so you have an easy access point to access these meetings moving forward and the recordings, right? We do not delete any of those recordings. If they're in there, we'll make sure that they stay recorded and stored in the GetQuorum platform. So you don't have to worry about paying Zoom for additional recording space or wondering where those recordings are from any meetings. Simple, right in the administrative dashboard, those meetings will not only be reflected, but you can open up new meetings. The neat thing here is there is an additional level of service that you don't get with your regular Zoom license, which is the fact that board members will have their own login credentials, and it gives them an opportunity to cast an electronic vote. So board members can vote on motions electronically and using this virtual board meeting environment. So again, it's an additional feature if you feel like it's something that your community can use because perhaps you don't have a separate Zoom account or you're looking for an all-in-one solution. Definitely take that into account. It's been used widely for the larger communities that have committee meetings, board meetings, going on throughout the year, and they want one place to store and record all those meetings and share them. That's what virtual board meetings is. And if you have any questions, let us know. I did want to review surveys a little bit more in depth because I know that I did not show you fully those survey features, and these are included in all of our basic core services. The surveys are really simple. They can be opened up at any time in the administrative dashboard. They can be anonymous or not. Just so you know that we can run anonymous surveys. It can be non-anonymous. And remember, they can go out to the entirety of the ownership population because they're not binding votes. they can be sent out to all the owners. So please, please, please make sure you're leveraging this. If you have and are using GetQuorum, you have survey capabilities. The surveys have a certain range of time. We'll ask when to open them, when to close them, and they will provide the final results. Good news, those results will live in there as well in the administrative dashboard. They'll stay there. So very good straw poll. If you've got some projects coming up in the community, if you've got a bulk cable contract and you're wondering, should we move to a bulk cable contract from a regular contract, or should we change one of the tennis courts to 2 pickleball courts because we might still have other tennis courts? Definitely get the gauge of the community first, and that will lead you to understanding whether you should put it up for a formal vote. So I can't emphasize that enough, that that's a great tool. And you will see the results real time for those surveys as well. So I'll see, we've got some more questions bubbling up, so I will definitely pull up those questions. And I do just kind of want to show some communities out there. So current day, there's again a couple thousand customers out there, but there are so many in the state of Florida that we service, and I just kind of want to show everyone out there that the West Coast and the East Coast, as you can imagine, have been quite busy. And there's a reason for that. The reason for that is because it's very transient. Some owners may or may not be able to attend the meetings, and it really does help to have an environment where they can cast a vote. You don't have to wait in the summers for them to come back in the, in the fall or winter to have these meetings and collect an official ownership vote. You can actually send these official votes out at any time with some of these reminders. So I will take some questions. I know that we've got some here, but as far as the presentation is concerned, congratulations, you made it. I will leave you, and I've got some questions, so I'll address these. I will leave you with some thoughts. House Bill 913 did provide some updates for our condos out there. So for our condos on the call, be aware that you are now officially obligated to provide some form of electronic voting for your community. That only pertains to the condos, so that was very interesting there. We expect the same updates to roll out at some point for HOAs as well. So we're quickly entering an environment where the state has been around now for 10 years offering electronic voting since 2015. And they're almost pushing in the way of mandating it, but we're not quite there, not far from it. So our condos on the call, HB 913, please make sure you've reviewed some of that information. It does provide some language where some form or another of electronic votes do have to be allowed by owners, and we're happy to elaborate on that if you need some further guidance. So as always, check in with your association attorneys and management as well too. They're great resources. And I know there's webinars only on just HB 913, so I didn't want to bore everyone with those. All right, so a few questions here. I'm going to tackle this and rip through these quickly here. So good information here. Let me go back to make sure we're all on the same page and I haven't skipped any. Is there an extra charge for surveys? No, there's not. Surveys are included. Zoom meetings, depending on the package that you have. So there's a package without Zoom meetings or a service without Zoom meetings. There's one with. If you got the one with Zoom meetings, no additional charge. It's included 12 months, unlimited. If you don't have the Zoom meetings package, then just to be clear, surveys are included in both. And so is unlimited electronic voting, unlimited electronic notices, just to be clear there. All right, so let's see. Perfect. Zoom option and additional costs. Again, 2 service levels, one with and one without, depending on what you're looking for. Just check in with your team and we'll make sure that we get on the same page and we get you both options. Usually I like to offer both options to communities. Some of them are either ready for it or they're not. Some of them may build up to it. So you might have a community that says, hey, we're going to start off with electronic voting. Maybe next year we'll fold into that other service level. That's fine as well, right? That's not going away for us. So a few other questions here. Will managers be able to create a shareable link in the Zoom meetings? Absolutely. Absolutely, they will. There's going to be a shareable link for the broader audience, and there's going to be a unique link for the board members to log into in terms of the Zoom meetings. And that unique link just make sure that they log in as panelists and that they do have should they wish to use it. They do have voting capabilities as board members to vote electronically on motions. So again, yes, general link for the broader. Is the consent a one-time exercise for electronic voting, or do you have to do it each time for different voting tasks? Excellent question, Greg. Absolutely stellar there. So I do appreciate that. Consent in the state of Florida as it pertains to electronic voting is right now a one-time consent. So if an owner consents, opts into electronic voting, they stay opted in perpetuity. They do not have to opt in again to electronic voting unless they opt out. That's great. Now, with that being said, it is our responsibility as an electronic voting provider to make sure that we house the electronic consent form. So we have to have that as an official record and reflect a year, 2 years, 3, 4 years later, or in perpetuity, that owner did opt in at some point, and we have to have that record on file, and we will. That's going to be part of our reporting features for sure, but it's only a one-time exercise for owners. I see an excellent question here by Brenda. So thank you. If we're no longer using your service, and I hope you do for a long time, but if you're no longer using it, would you have access to the data? 100%. So my previous board member, Hat, really is passionate about that one, and having you understand the data that we collect as an electronic voting provider is your data. I can't emphasize that enough. So whether it is on day one that you export records, or whether it is the day you part with us, if that day does come, that data is always exportable in our platform. So it's always stored in the platform. It's always exportable. You do not have to wait for us to part ways if that's what happens. There's no specific costs or fees that we charge for that. Everything's exportable, whether it's the consents, whether it is a report of owners that opted in or not, or whether it is official electronic voting results. Those are always reports that are there and can be exported and kept on your end. And so it says that information it's stored in our platform, again, in the cloud. We're using Amazon Web Services. So is there a monthly report reflecting changes? Not specifically changes, but probably ownership changes. Yes, we can probably generate something showing if there was an ownership change, because we do receive nightly updates of that information. But voting reports, absolutely. All right, Cheryl, survey capabilities part of the Pro package only? No, part of both of our packages, the Voting Essentials and Pro. Right now, we're offering it with both. I made a push for that. Will the questions be included in the PDF to include answers? The recording will. The included will provide you all of this. When an owner sells their property, how quickly can the owner be removed from voting, and who monitors this? Excellent question. So due to our integration that we currently have now, it's very helpful because our team will understand if there's been an ownership change, and our team will be responsible for making sure that we remove that owner from the voting block, for example. So based on that API integration, the roster integration, we should have an understanding as to any new owners or old owners, and be updating the roster information, right? And GetQuorum is what that relates back to. Cost-wise, check in with your manager. We've got some really great preferred costs for you guys through Alliant. So we'll get that over to you. And again, it can be for both, service options if you want to see both. Minimum number of condos for electronic voting. I don't think so. Our smallest community in Florida is something like 36 doors, I want to say. And I was shocked when we had the opportunity to partner up with them, but it's because it was an investment property and most of the owners are not on site and they won't attend meetings. So they have to have electronic votes go out to them. But no, for the most part, we've got from that to 5,000 doors out there. So there was a question for Kim in there. It says, get quorum representative here, Cam a special position. So there's a question for Kim saying what position at Alliant would be our get quorum representative. We don't work directly for Alliant. We're an independent company collaborating with Alliant, and we're going to make sure that, again, Alliant has direct access to our team and making sure that we're executing all the steps that we discussed. Nice presentation. Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, sorry, I saw the response there, Kim, that the Cam's your liaison. Always your Cam's your liaison, and then it comes back to us. Cam will communicate with us. Few last questions here. Have you encountered a scenario in which the master association decides to use your services, but a sub does not want to use them? or vice versa? Absolutely. We've got both. We've got master associations that receive preferential pricing for the subs, and all the sub associations are using us. And we have some scenarios that only the master association is using us, or vice versa. We have some that the sub has used us, and then later on the master finds out about us. Every association, as long as you're your own legal entity, you're independent. All right, so you can make those decisions on your own. So the management company does have the creating surveys option, yes. And the board does have access to the GetQuorum files, so you're good there. And very informative. Thank you. I think we stuck the landing here with Mr. Larry's thank you. It's my pleasure. I'm going to turn it back over to Kim.
Okay, thank you, Frank. There is a Q&A window, Frank, that I am not sure that you can see. So I was just going to read through. There's a few questions here. Some of them are duplicates, so I'll try to skip the duplicates. But
Sure.
this question was, are the processes in place to prevent sharing of consent voting links to prevent issue?
There are. It specifically relates to back to IP address tracking on our end. But yes, absolutely. And we've got a voter fraud kind of prevention policy in place. We're happy to share. Yes.
Okay. And then I actually had a follow-up question to Greg's where we were talking about consent, like a one-time consent. If an owner has consented with electronic voting with a different management company and a different election voting company, and their community now comes over to Alliant and GetQuorum, does that consent from the previous company carry over?
It does. We can grandfather consents in. We've done that at a very high level. I think the one caveat there is that we've got to make sure that the consent that's coming over to us is a consent with some sort of signature from the owner. I say that because we received lists in the past saying, "Hey, this is the list." They opt in every owner, and we fall back on, "Hey, is there consent on file?" Right? Actually reflecting that an owner consented or opted in. We don't have those. We just have a list. So if it's just a list, it's going to be a no, and we'll reset the consent process for you. No worry. There's no extra charge for that. If there's an official consent form on file, then yes, we're happy to grandfather that in and bring it over, and you don't have to reset that consent process.
Brenda asked if this is a one-time vote or if it's an ongoing subscription. Correct me if I'm wrong. When they sign up for the subscription, it's for the year?
Correct. 12 months from the date of signature, unlimited.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What can be provided so that the owner has all the info they need for doc approvals like amendments?
Yeah, and in terms of the steps or the procedures, so there's a quick video we send out to let the owners know the process, how it works, and the owner has all the info they need for doc approvals like amendments. Really just a collateral to let them know how the process works, a quick video that we can provide to show them the process. But in terms of the official notice, that really has all the information usually pertaining to that amendment, right? So that official notice that we send out usually has everything that they need in order to vote yes, no, or abstain from voting on an amendment. A red receipt, yeah, we're gonna get receipts for you guys. If an owner has opened up an email, we can provide. I see that now, so thank you for pointing that out. Read receipts, yes, we can provide reports showing whether an email has been opened and read. And remember, it's not a statutory requirement for owners to open up, right, the notices. However, the technology does give us access into providing reports on whether an email or a notice has been read. Yes. And then I see the next one here. Is it from Dennis?
Yeah.
Email. All right. So does an owner get a confirmation email if they opt to copy, if they don't opt in, right? So if an owner does not opt in and opts out of electronic voting, they get a receipt of opting out. Copy the document. Not sure what copy the document is, but if an owner does not opt in with GetQuorum, they can get a receipt of opting out. If an owner takes no action with GetQuorum, then obviously it's going to reflect that they never took action. They don't get a confirmation email there. But confirmation emails only come from action. So an owner actually has to complete an action item with us in order to get a receipt, whether that's a vote or a consent. There has to be a completion or a submission in our platform. I see an anonymous. There's bounce back. Who does it go back to? So the bounce backs are going to be communicated from GetQuorum back through Alliance. So we're going to make sure that our team member, again, that's collaborating with your management team, is going to relay any bounce backs as soon as we send the electronic notice out. So not to worry about that. The start again button seems to be confusing. Could an owner not understand the purpose of that button? Yeah, sure. I mean, we can make that a revoke button instead of start again, right? So it can say something like revoke and resubmit the start again button. And let's see a few others. When voting for director each year, how long before the results are tabulated? So results are immediate. It's a great question. We have immediate results in our platform that can be provided. So that is a good one there. Cost based on number of doors. Yeah, there's a range always, right? For the amount of work that we do as a company. Again, check in with your management team partner, with Kim there, and we'll make sure that we get that over to you. Thank you. And what was the house bill again? 913. That's a good one. That's going to be an ongoing topic for our condos on the call. Not for our HOAs, doesn't apply to you here, but for our condos on the call, House Bill 913. Look it up. Again, happy to provide you guys more context. There's going to be a ton of webinars on just House Bill 913 overviews.
Well, thank you so much. If anybody has any questions, you can always email me. Reach out to your CAM if you would like a quote for this. Definitely reach out to your CAM. I will coordinate with them and Frank, and we will get the information back to you. If you have any other questions or want, like Frank said, if you want a more personalized one-on-one, if you're seriously considering this, we can arrange with Frank to present to your entire board or however you wish to do that. So again, let your CAM or myself know, and we'll take care of that. So thank you, everyone. That concludes the webinar, and we will talk to you next time.
Thank you, everyone online. Have a wonderful week.